Well, hello, Canadian Campaholic here with an advice video for you on this glorious early August day. Hope you're doing well and staying safe and getting out there doing some camping. Today, we're going to talk about the things that you should think about and consider and look for when you're buying a brand new RV. We've talked on the channel previously about buying new versus used. We've talked about buying used campers, specifically tent trailers. But one of my subscribers put in a request for a video that focused exclusively on what to look for when you're buying something brand new. So we're going to break this video into a few key areas. We're going to talk about the style of the trailer itself and what you need to consider in that regard. So that will include how it's built, the size of it, and the actual style itself. But we're also going to talk about interiors and layouts and features and things to consider. An RV is a huge investment, whether it's a travel trailer or a hybrid or a fifth wheel. It's a lot of money, and you're going to be spending a lot of time inside of these things, so you really need to make sure that you've done your homework before you run out and buy a camper. So the first thing that we need to consider when it comes time to buy a trailer, obviously, is going to be the price. You're going to have a budget to spend, and you're going to be looking at anything from $16,000 on the low end for a very small new unit, and the sky is the limit. You could get up into the $50,000, $60,000, or if you're talking about an Airstream, you could be getting into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. The big thing that really influences the price is not just the size, but how the trailer is built. So if you look at our trailer behind you, this is a 22-foot trailer from the ball to the bumper. This is what's called stick and tin. So that means the framing is wood, and then we've got this aluminum siding. This is a much cheaper way of building trailers. It's not necessarily a bad way of doing it. They've been doing it this way for a long, long time, but it is less expensive. The big trade-off here, of course, though, is weight. A stick and tin trailer is going to weigh a lot more. So this trailer, it's about 22 feet long and fully loaded with everything, single axle, it weighs about 3,500 pounds. If it was twin axle, probably get even between 4,000 to 5,000 pounds, depending on the dimensions. If you think about something like this trailer that we have over here, this is a fiberglass sidewall aluminum frame construction. In fact, this one might actually be wood with fiberglass, but I don't know if we have any others. If we look across the way there, there's an older fifth wheel. Again, it could be wood frame, but I would suspect that one's going to be aluminum frame construction with fiberglass sidewalls. Much more expensive in terms of price to build, but you can get a heck of a lot more trailer with much less weight. The other thing to consider with it is, of course, going to be maintenance. So with a stick and tin trailer, if you get a leak in it, wood can rot a lot more easily, and that can be a concern. However, some might argue that fixing a piece of wood and some aluminum is going to be way easier than trying to fix, let's say you had a stress crack in your aluminum frame, or you had a puncture in the fiberglass sidewall. That's going to be a little more complicated. So I could talk all day about the pros and cons of stick and tin versus fiberglass, but a lot really depends on what you want to do. Fiberglass sidewalls and aluminum frame, to me, is superior. The Europeans have been doing it that way, especially with caravans in the UK, for a long, long time. There's certainly some merits to stick and tin in terms of price, but if you could afford it and it's within your budget, I would say definitely go for aluminum framed and fiberglass sidewalls if you can, but that's just my personal opinion. The other thing that we should talk about when it gets into size, of course, is maneuverability and towability. You've got to think about what you're going to be doing with this trailer. If your plan is to live in it full time and just park it somewhere, then maybe size is not as big of an issue for you. But if you're going to be like us, going to state or provincial parks with a lot of windy roads, you don't want some 40-foot behemoth. It's going to be very difficult to maneuver it in the lanes. It's going to be difficult to back it into the campsite, and it's going to limit some of the places that you can take it. If you do an RV park where it's more open plan, you can get away with a lot more, but for us, we like really woodsy sites, narrow lanes, really rustic, so a 22-foot is a pretty good size for us. Also keep in mind that with the size, you've also got to think about your tow vehicle. If you want to have a tent trailer or a pop-up camper or some of the small hybrids, then yeah, you could probably get away with a smaller SUV or in some cases a minivan. If you're getting into a travel trailer like ours, you're really better off with a half-ton truck or a large SUV. If you're getting into fifth wheel trailers, yes, they make half-ton towable fifth wheels. I would argue that they are on the bleeding edge of what a half-ton truck can safely tow in terms of payload in the bed, in terms of weight, and they're really not that big inside. If you want a good classic fifth wheel, and that's what you're looking for, you're better off with at least a 1 ton or a 3/4 ton truck. So a Ram 2500 or even a 3500 if you're going to go that route. So you've got to think about that. What are you comfortable towing? How are you going to tow it? Where are you going to tow it? Those are things to consider. So we've come inside our camper now to talk about something which I think a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about when it comes to buying a trailer. They really fixate on the interior fit and finish and the layout of the trailer. You've got to make sure, of course, that you have enough bedding for the number of people that you plan to have in the trailer. So in our trailer, we've got a queen-size bed where my son is sitting now. That will sleep 2 adults comfortably. We have a booth dinette, which could sleep 2 kids when it breaks down into a bed. You could sleep an adult here, but it's actually not that long. In fact, I'm about 5'9½", and I barely have enough length in here to lay down. So that's something to consider with the dinettes for sleeping. We've got bunks in the back, 2 single bunks. So for us, we have kids. A bunkhouse was an absolute must. If it's going to be a couples coach, then and you're never going to have kids in it, then you could probably forego the whole bunkhouse arrangement. But bunkhouse is great for kids. The reason I'm droning on about sleeping, though, is, which kind of takes me to my next point, is when you look at a trailer and the dealer says to you, oh, it sleeps comfortably 8 people, or you could have this many people in the camper with you, don't just take their word for it. Spend some time in the trailer that you're looking at the dealership, actually sitting in the dinette to see how big it is. So case in point, here we have a standard booth dinette. Looks like you could probably sit 4 adults. Well, I'm a pretty big guy, but once I sit down, you can quickly see there's no way in hell you're going to fit 4 adults. If you are, you're all going to have your elbows in like this. It's going to be very hard to eat. This dinette is a little bit too small. You want to have something a little bit longer if you can. If you can get a camper with a slide out, that's going to allow a little more space in the dinette. U-shaped dinettes are very popular. They break down into bigger beds, so you'd have seating all the way around it in a U. But again, me being a bigger guy, every time I look at a new trailer with a U-shaped dinette, because that's what I want in our next camper, I scoot around the entire seating area to make sure that my gut doesn't snag on the table, to make sure I can get in and out of the space. Break it down into a bed if you want to. Ask the dealer, would you mind if I broke this down into a bed? Which kind of leads me to my next point, is give it a bit of a test. Now, that doesn't mean to say take the camper out, because they're not going to let you do that, but ask them if you could have them break down the bed, or you break down the bed, and then actually lay on it. Is it comfortable? Is it big enough? Same with the kitchen. When you look at a kitchen, a lot of these units now, they give you this big spacious living room and a fireplace and all this other stuff, but the kitchens can be quite small. Well, actually stand there and kind of go through the motions of, okay, this is what it would be like if I was doing dishes. Okay, I don't want to smack my head on the counter. Okay, this is me frying. Okay, there's not a lot of space in there. This is my coffee pot. Okay, I'm doing dishes, honey. You go past me and try to go to the bathroom. And it sounds a little ridiculous, but these are the realities of what you're going to face when you actually get this camper out and use it. So in our trailer, which does not have a slide out, it's a little tight in here. So you've got to be mindful of that. Check out the bathroom. Obviously, you want to have a bathroom. I don't think you're going to find many campers nowadays that don't have a bathroom. But actually go into the bathroom. Don't take an actual dump, but sit on the toilet. Have you got enough shoulder space? If the door's shut, have you got enough room for your legs? Can you stand up and down to get your toilet paper and do your business comfortably? The shower. A lot of the showers have a really tall, sorry for the mess in here, a lot of the showers, the floor is really raised up. My wife is 6'1", so anytime we look at a camper, I say, honey, stand in the shower. If there's a skylight, make sure that gives her enough headroom to actually stand in the shower. Move around in the shower. Grab the hose and pretend you're showering yourself. Again, it sounds ridiculous, but that's really going to help you get a feeling for, okay, when I'm actually out boondocking or camping in this thing, how practical is it going to be? Lay on the bed. Make sure the bed is comfortable. Look at the space around you. Look at the cupboard space. Because space, I feel weird sitting on the crapper here talking to you. Space is going to be everything in a trailer. The next camper we get, we're going to want to have a slide out in it because it just gives you that much more floor space. Keep in mind, adding a slide is going to add weight, it's going to add cost, and then it's going to add maintenance, and we'll talk about maintenance in a minute. But yeah, don't just look at a floor plan that's pretty, look at a floor plan that is functional. Now, when I talk about functionality, I guess the caveat with that is how you intend to use the unit. If you're just going to use it as a base of operations to sleep in at night, to hunker down in when the weather's not so great, that's what we do, then you don't need a huge camper. This camper, we've had myself, my wife, my mother, our 2 kids, even a dog in here. It was a little cozy, but we only used it at night to sleep and only to hunker down in when the weather was bad. 90% of our time was out camping, on the campsite, hiking, fishing, whatever. However, if you're a glamper or a full-timer, or you want to socialize in your trailer, then something this small is really probably not going to cut it for you. So that's going to really influence the size of what you're buying. But yes, layout is everything. We've seen trailers where it looked like it had a fantastic bedroom, and then we went and looked at the walk-around bed, as they call it, and maybe if you're a hobbit, you could walk around it, but anybody of a reasonable size is going to have an issue. One of the things that we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about in this video is brand of RV, because that's a little bit subjective and everybody's experience is different. The one piece of advice I would give you is do your research, look at the reviews, but be cautious with the reviews. This is a Salem Cruise Light built by Forest River, and some of the reviews I read online were horrendous, and this has been a great camper for us, so take those with a grain of salt. But the reason I'm saying do some research is that there's a couple of rather questionable dealers near us that sell brands I've never heard of. And when you go and research them, they're not necessarily part of a major manufacturer like Jayco or Forest River or Airstream. So that makes me a little bit suspicious, so be cautious with that. But where I'm going with this is it's not just about using a camper, it's about maintaining it. And a big part of that is going to be the dealer. A lot of people fixate entirely on the trailer, the floor plan, whether they can tow it, how easy it would be to use it, how comfortable it would be, but they don't stop to think about the maintenance piece. Having a camper, whether it's a tent trailer or travel trailer fifth wheel, there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining it. And brand new campers, they're being built on those assembly lines very quickly. There's a huge demand for them right now, and it's inevitable that you're going to have some maintenance hiccups. So research the dealer. See what the experiences have been like with the dealer. Our dealer, for example, did an immense pre-delivery inspection. They added extra sealant all over the place. They tested all of the appliances. They went over this thing with a fine-tooth comb because they wanted us to have the best experience. Not every dealer does that. Then when I got the camper, the walkthrough was absolutely phenomenal. Incredibly detailed, every minor little thing. That's also important. And then, of course, warranty. What if your hot water tank stops working? What if your fridge quits working? A lot of that stuff is going to be covered by warranty in the first year or so, and you're going to have to take it back to the dealer. So what's that experience going to be like? And look at the warranty itself. This camper came with a 2-year warranty on the entire camper from ball to bumper, and then I want to say a 3-year warranty on the appliances. And if you're going to have some issues with the camper, it's usually going to be within that first year. But yeah, looking into and researching your dealer is a huge thing to consider. All right, so we're going to start to wind this video down because I could probably ramble on about this all day. But the last thing that I'll talk about as it relates to buying a new camper is the level of creature comforts that you really want in the trailer, because comfort is really key. And I think that's a big reason why people go up to a travel trailer, because they want the experience of being outdoors and camping. But at the end of the day, they want to have something very comfortable. Those of you that follow the channel know the odyssey I've had with the bed. My biggest regret on this camper was not in finding one that had a good mattress on it. So that's, you're going to sleep on this thing, so you don't want some nasty little mattress. Another thing to consider when you're talking about creature comforts is going to be your air conditioner. A wall-mounted unit like this one can safely run off of a 15 amp cord without any major issues. However, that's going to mean that anytime you run the microwave or a kettle or anything else, you're probably going to have to switch that stuff off to run the air conditioner. Ideally, you should be on 30 amp service to run an air conditioner. If it's a roof-mounted air conditioner, you absolutely need to be on 30 amp service, otherwise you're going to melt that 15 amp cord. So you know, there's pros and cons to roof-mounted versus wall-mounted air conditioners. A wall mount's obviously going to be a lot cheaper, easier to replace. However, a roof-mounted is going to be a much better system. Your microwave, you know, do you want just a standard microwave or do you want a convection oven? Do you want just a gas cooktop or do you want an oven underneath as well? Do you want a bathtub? Although not many trailers come with bathtubs. Do you want just a cheap little curtain like we have, or would you rather have a glass surround? We talked about the Booth dinette versus the U-shaped dinette. You could think about the floors. You know, do you want a tile floor, or though most are going to be linoleum? Your countertop, do you want a laminate countertop, or do you want a solid surface countertop, like a Corian style countertop? Those sorts of things are critical. I wouldn't say that they should be top of your list. You've got to be able to afford the trailer. You've got to be able to safely tow it and maneuver it. And then in terms of floor plan, it's got to be functional. Maintenance, it's not that it's not important, but it's not your prime consideration necessarily. And then, of course, creature comforts is also in there as well. So anyway, I've probably missed a whole bunch of topics, or I've missed key points, and I'm sure many of you will have some great suggestions from your own purchase experience. So go ahead and pop your advice in the comments down below. I hope this video was somewhat useful. It's tough to fit all the advice into a reasonably timed video. So we'll wrap things up. Happy camping. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.